Have you ever wondered why you can make a promise to yourself at night and break it before the morning is over? Not because you don't care, not because you're lazy, but because something inside you keeps choosing comfort over the future you say you want. If you've ever felt trapped in that invisible cycle, stay with this thought. There is a way out. Not through another perfect routine or another burst of motivation, but through something far smaller, far more powerful, and far more personal than you've ever been told. You know the feeling. You tell yourself that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow you'll wake up earlier. Tomorrow you'll stop wasting time. Tomorrow you'll finally become the person you've imagined for years. But tomorrow keeps arriving, and somehow it always looks exactly like yesterday. The dreams remain, the intentions remain, yet your life stays in the same place. That isn't because you're missing talent. It isn't because other people have something you don't.
It's because every day presents one quiet moment that seems too small to matter. And in that moment, you make a decision. Most of the time, you don't even notice it happening. It happens when the alarm rings and your hand reaches for the snooze button. It happens when you know you should begin but decide to scroll for just a few more minutes. It happens when you promise yourself you'll start after lunch, after work, after the weekend, after life becomes easier. Those moments don't look important. They feel ordinary, almost invisible. But invisible decisions shape visible lives. The hardest truth to accept is that your future is not being built during your biggest moments. It is being built during the moments that seem too small to remember. While you're waiting for some dramatic breakthrough, your everyday choices are quietly writing the story you'll eventually have to live. Think about that for a second. The person you want to become isn't disappearing because of one massive mistake. They're fading because of hundreds of tiny decisions that tell your mind over and over again, "Not today." Your brain listens carefully to what you repeatedly do. It pays far less attention to what you repeatedly say. You can tell yourself you're determined. You can tell yourself you're ambitious. You can even believe it with all your heart. But if your actions keep choosing comfort instead of commitment, your mind begins to accept comfort as your identity. That quote's the part nobody warns you about. Every broken promise leaves a mark. Not because the task was important, but because your mind remembers who made the promise. You did. Every time you ignore your own word, trust in yourself becomes a little weaker. And without trust, even the biggest goals start feeling impossible. This is why motivation fades so quickly. It tries to carry a weight that only commitment was meant to hold. You don't wake up one day lacking confidence. Confidence slowly slips away every time you prove to yourself that your excuses matter more than your intentions. The pain isn't just in what you failed to do. It's in what those repeated choices quietly convince you to believe about yourself. Maybe that's why you've been feeling stuck. Not because you can't change, because somewhere along the way, you stopped believing your own promises. The good news is that the same process that weakened your confidence can rebuild it. The same quiet moments that slowly pulled you away from the life you wanted can pull you back towards it. Change doesn't need permission from perfect circumstances. It only needs one honest decision that refuses to surrender to the voice asking for one more delay. Everything begins there. Not in a life-changing event, not in a perfect morning, not after you finally feel ready. It begins in the silent space between what feels easy and what you know is right. That single moment arrives every day. And whether you notice it or not, it has been waiting for you all along. That moment is so small that most people walk past it without realizing they just shaped another day of their lives. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel dramatic. It feels ordinary. And that is exactly why it holds so much power. Every choice you make is casting a vote for the person you are becoming. Not the person you hope to become someday. The person you are building right now.
Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen that identity. Every time you break one, you strengthen another. Your life is not changing because your identity is not changing. You cannot repeatedly act like one person while expecting to become someone completely different. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is filled with decisions so small that most people ignore them. They keep searching for one giant breakthrough while overlooking the tiny actions that create every breakthrough that has ever existed. The strange part is that your mind is always paying attention. It remembers every excuse. It remembers every promise you kept. It remembers every time you chose comfort instead of growth. You may forget those moments, but your subconscious doesn't. It quietly collects evidence and forms a belief about who you are. That belief becomes your reality. If your actions repeatedly say, "I quit" when it gets uncomfortable, your mind begins to expect quitting. If your actions repeatedly say, "I do what I said I would do," your mind begins to expect discipline. Over time, that expectation becomes automatic. This is why small decisions matter more than big declarations. Anyone can feel inspired for a day. Anyone can make a powerful promise after watching a video or reading a quote. But inspiration fades, emotion settles, reality returns. Then comes the only question that matters: that who are you when nobody is watching? Who are you when there is no applause? Who are you when the work is boring, repetitive, and invisible? That is where your future is decided. The world celebrates the finished result, but it never sees the silent moments that created it. It doesn't see the mornings when you wanted to stay in bed but stood up anyway. It doesn't see the evenings when you wanted to quit but kept going. Those moments never become headlines, yet they become character. Character is built in private before it is revealed in public. Stop waiting for your actions to feel exciting. Most meaningful actions don't. They feel inconvenient. They feel uncomfortable. They feel ordinary. The difference is that disciplined people stop judging actions by how they feel. They judge them by where they lead. Comfort always speaks with a gentle voice. It sounds reasonable. It tells you that one missed day doesn't matter. One delay won't hurt. One distraction is harmless. And by itself, maybe it is. But comfort never arrives alone. It brings another excuse tomorrow, then another the day after that. Before long, weeks have disappeared, then months, then years. You look back and wonder where all the time went. It wasn't stolen in one moment. It disappeared one decision at a time. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine choosing the difficult action even when nobody would know if you didn't. Imagine proving to yourself again and again that your word means something. Every small victory sends a message deeper than motivation ever could. It says, "I can trust myself." That kind of trust changes everything. Because once you believe your own promises, your excuses begin to lose their power. The battle doesn't become easier because life changed. It becomes easier because you changed. You stop asking whether you feel like doing the work. You simply become the kind of person who does it. That identity cannot be bought. It cannot be borrowed. It cannot be given to you by anyone else. It is earned through countless moments that almost nobody notices. The next time life places a simple decision in front of you, remember that it is never just about that one action. It is about the person waiting on the other side of it, hoping that this time you finally choose them. The hardest battle you will ever fight is not against other people. It is not against bad luck. It is not against a lack of opportunity. It is against the voice inside your own mind that always tries to make the easy choice sound like the right one. That voice knows exactly what to say. It tells you that you're tired, that you've already done enough, that one more day won't make a difference. It wraps every excuse in logic until giving up feels completely reasonable. And if you aren't paying attention, you mistake comfort for wisdom. But comfort has never built the life you dream about. Every meaningful achievement asks the same question in different forms. Will you keep going when the excitement disappears? Will you stay committed when nobody is encouraging you? Will you choose your future over your feelings? These questions don't appear once in your life. They appear almost every day, and every answer becomes part of your identity. Most people think discipline is about forcing yourself to suffer. It isn't. Discipline is about remembering what matters when your emotions try to make you forget. Feelings change by the hour. Purpose does not. If you let every emotion decide your actions, your life will always move in circles. Your emotions are real, but they are not always reliable. Some mornings you will feel unstoppable. Other mornings you will feel empty. If your commitment rises and falls with those emotions, consistency will never have a chance to grow. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not fearless. They simply stop asking their feelings for permission. Think about how many dreams have disappeared because someone waited to feel ready. Ready is a moving target. Confidence is a moving target. The perfect moment is a moving target. You keep chasing them, and they keep moving farther away. Meanwhile, time keeps moving forward without asking whether you are prepared. Every sunrise offers another decision. Every sunset records the answer. Life doesn't pause while you hesitate. The clock never rewards delay. It only measures it. One day becomes another, then another. Before long, the version of yourself you promised to become feels like a distant stranger instead of your future. That is the hidden cost of waiting. You don't just lose time. You lose trust in your own potential. Every promise postponed teaches your mind that your words have no weight. Eventually, you stop believing yourself, not because you failed once, but because you repeated the pattern until it became familiar. Patterns are powerful. They can trap you. They can also set you free. The same brain that learned to expect excuses can learn to expect action, but only if you interrupt the pattern before it becomes another year of your life. The next difficult moment is not your enemy. It is your opportunity. When your mind says skip today, that is the exact moment your future is listening. When your body says rest a little longer, that is the exact moment your character is being shaped. When everything inside you wants the easier path, choosing the harder one sends a message that echoes far beyond today. It tells your mind that you are no longer controlled by temporary feelings. That message becomes strength. Strength becomes confidence. Confidence becomes freedom. Freedom is not doing whatever feels good in the moment. Freedom is having enough control over yourself that your future is no longer held hostage by today's emotions. Imagine waking up knowing that when you make yourself a promise, it will be kept. Imagine looking in the mirror without carrying the weight of another excuse. Imagine becoming someone your younger self would recognize as courageous, not because you never struggled, but because you stopped surrendering every time life became uncomfortable. That version of you is not waiting for perfect conditions. That version of you is waiting for one decision that says, no matter how I feel, I will not betray the future I want. The moment you make that choice, something invisible begins to change. No trophy appears. No crowd applauds. But deep inside, the foundation of a different life is finally being built. One decision strong enough to silence every excuse that once convinced you to stay the same. That foundation grows every time you refuse to walk away from yourself. It grows when you choose action over excuses, even if the action is small. It grows when you stop asking whether today will change your life and start realizing that today is your life. Every decision becomes another brick. Every promise kept becomes another layer of strength. Before long, what once felt impossible begins to feel normal. This is how real transformation happens. Not in one explosive moment. not through one perfect morning, not because everything suddenly becomes easy. It happens because you stop waiting for life to change before you decide to change. There is incredible power in that realization. The moment you understand that no one is coming to rescue you is the moment you become dangerous to every excuse that has controlled you for years. You stop looking outside for the answer because you finally recognize where it has always been, inside the next decision. People often believe they need a completely different life to become disciplined. They think they need more time, more money, more energy, better circumstances. But history is filled with people who started with less than you have right now. The difference was never perfection. The difference was commitment. Commitment is quiet. It does not need an audience. It does not wait for recognition. It simply shows up day after day, even when no reward is visible. That is why so few people build it. The beginning feels unfair. You work hard and nothing seems to change. You stay consistent and the results are invisible. Your mind starts asking if any of it is worth it. That is the moment when most people quit. Not because they cannot succeed, but because they expect progress to arrive before persistence has had enough time to work. Do not let silence fool you. A seed buried beneath the ground looks lifeless until the day it breaks through the surface. Yet it has been growing the entire time. Your effort works the same way. Every disciplined decision is creating roots that no one can see. The stronger those roots become, the stronger your future will stand when life tests you. Trust the process that your eyes cannot yet confirm. The greatest rewards often arrive after the longest periods of unseen effort. If you give up too early, you will mistake temporary discomfort for permanent failure. They are not the same. Failure is not falling short. Failure is refusing to continue. As long as you keep making the next right decision, you are still moving forward, even if your progress feels invisible today. One day you will look back and realize the hardest part was never the work itself. The hardest part was convincing yourself to begin before you believed in the outcome. Every victory you admire in someone else began with uncertainty. They had doubts. They had fear. They had moments when quitting sounded easier. What separated them was not talent, it was the decision to keep moving despite those feelings. That same choice is available to you. Right now, your future is being shaped by actions so ordinary that they barely seem worth mentioning. Getting out of bed when you said you would, finishing the task you wanted to avoid, saying no to the distraction that steals another hour from your dreams. None of these moments feel legendary. Together, they become a legendary life. Never underestimate the power of repeated obedience to your own values. Every time you honor your word, you reclaim a piece of yourself that excuses try to steal. Every disciplined action sends a message that grows louder with repetition. I can rely on myself. There is no greater confidence than that. Because once you trust yourself, you stop fearing difficult goals. You stop doubting whether you can handle hard seasons. You stop searching for motivation because your habits carry you further than emotions ever could. The person you have been chasing is no longer far away. They are being created every time you make the decision that your old self would have avoided. Keep choosing that path. Keep proving to yourself that your future deserves more than another excuse. One day, you will realize that the life you once dreamed about was never built by extraordinary moments. It was built by ordinary decisions made with extraordinary consistency. Extraordinary consistency does not demand that you become perfect. It demands that you become honest. Honest about the excuses that have held you back. Honest about the habits that quietly steal your future. Honest about the fact that every day you delay is another day you hand your dreams to fear instead of faith. There comes a moment when you have to stop negotiating with the life you know you are meant to live. That moment is not tomorrow. It is not next week. It is not when everything finally makes sense. It is now. Right now, while your doubts are still speaking, Right now, while your fears are still trying to convince you to wait. Right now, while comfort is making one last attempt to keep you exactly where you are. This is the decision that separates two futures. One future is familiar. You already know what it looks like. More waiting, more promises that never leave your mind. More mornings filled with good intentions and evenings filled with quiet regret. A year passes, then another. The dream slowly fades, not because it was impossible, but because it was always postponed. The other future begins with a single act of courage, not a giant leap, not a perfect performance, just one decision that says, I will no longer betray the person I want to become. That sentence has the power to change everything, because the moment you stop breaking promises to yourself, something inside you begins to heal. The confidence you thought you had lost starts returning, not all at once, but piece by piece. You begin to stand a little taller, you begin to think differently, you begin to look at obstacles as challenges instead of walls. Your world changes because you change. Never forget that discipline is one of the few things that grows stronger every time you use it. The more often you choose what is right over what is easy, the less control your excuses have over you. The voice of comfort becomes quieter. The voice of conviction becomes louder. Eventually, the decision that once felt impossible becomes automatic. That is the reward. Not that life becomes easy, but that you become stronger than the resistance trying to stop you. One day, someone will look at your consistency and call you lucky. They will see the results but never the mornings you wanted to quit. They will admire the confidence but never the nights you chose discipline over distraction. They will celebrate the outcome without understanding the countless invisible choices that made it possible. You will know the truth. You will know that every victory was earned long before anyone noticed. And that truth will become something nobody can take away from you. Years from now, you will either remember this season as the time you finally took control of your life, or the time you watched another opportunity disappear while waiting for the perfect moment. That choice has never belonged to your circumstances. It has always belonged to you. The beautiful part is that your past does not get the final word. It does not matter how many promises you have broken. It does not matter how many times you have failed. It does not matter how long you have doubted yourself. The next decision does not ask for your history. It asks for your courage. Every sunrise gives you another chance to become someone your future self will thank. Every small act of discipline becomes a message sent forward in time, telling the person you are becoming, I did not give up on you. Imagine meeting that future version of yourself. Imagine looking into their eyes and knowing they exist because you refuse to quit today. That is the legacy of one decision. It reaches beyond this moment. It reaches beyond this week. It shapes every opportunity you will ever have the strength to seize. So when this moment ends and the world grows quiet again, remember that nothing extraordinary is required of you except the willingness to make one choice and then another, and another after that. Keep your word. Protect your future. Build your identity, one decision at a time. Because the life you have been waiting for will never arrive on its own. It will rise from the choices you make when nobody else is watching. When nobody else is watching, the truth about your life is being written. Not by luck, not by talent, not by circumstances, by the decisions you make when there is no applause waiting at the finish line. Those quiet moments are where your character is tested. Those quiet moments are where your future is earned. Never underestimate the power of choosing differently today. One decision may not transform your life before the sun goes down, but it transforms you. And once you change, your life has no choice but to follow. The greatest mistake people make is believing they need to see progress before they commit. Real growth works the opposite way. You commit before the progress is visible. You believe before the evidence appears. You keep showing up long enough for your actions to become proof. That is what faith in yourself looks like. Not believing that everything will be easy, believing that you will keep going even when it isn't. Every difficult choice is an investment in someone you have not met yet. The stronger, calmer, wiser version of you is depending on the decisions you make today. They cannot reach back and help you, but you can reach forward and build them. That is the incredible responsibility you carry every single day. You are not simply living your present. You are creating your future memories. Years from now, you will remember this chapter. You will remember whether you continued making excuses or finally decided that enough was enough. You will remember whether fear remained in control or whether purpose became stronger than comfort. That memory is being created right now. There is something powerful that happens when you stop asking life to become easier and start asking yourself to become stronger. Problems do not disappear, but they stop controlling your direction. Obstacles become training instead of punishment. Setbacks become lessons instead of endings. Every challenge becomes another opportunity to prove that your commitment is real. That is the mindset that changes lives. You stop measuring success by instant results. You measure it by whether you kept your promise today. If the answer is yes, then you are already winning. Because success is never an accident. It is the natural result of thousands of disciplined decisions that nobody celebrates until the outcome becomes impossible to ignore. You have spent enough time waiting for motivation. You have spent enough time hoping confidence will magically appear. You have spent enough time giving your future away to temporary comfort. Now it is time to become someone who acts first and lets confidence catch up later. Remember this whenever the easy path calls your name. Every excuse promises relief. Every disciplined decision delivers freedom. One gives you comfort for a moment. The other gives you respect for yourself that can last a lifetime. Choose the reward that still matters tomorrow. Your potential has been waiting patiently, not for perfect conditions, not for another motivational speech, not for someone else to believe in you. It has been waiting for you to believe yourself. To believe that your word has value, to believe that your effort matters, to believe that one decision repeated every day can rewrite an entire life. It can, and it will. The moment you stop treating discipline like a punishment and start seeing it as an act of self-respect, everything changes. Every early morning becomes a declaration. Every completed task becomes a promise fulfilled. Every moment you refuse to quit becomes another reason to trust yourself. That trust becomes your greatest strength. Because once you know you can rely on yourself, there is very little that can shake you. Life will still test you. There will still be hard days. There will still be moments when giving up seems easier. But you will no longer be the person who always chooses easy. You will become the person who chooses growth. And that single shift will echo through every part of your life. So when this voice fades and the silence returns, remember that your future is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to decide. Decide that your dreams deserve action. Decide that your promises matter. Decide that today will not be another page filled with delay. Make the choice. Honor it tomorrow. Honor it again the day after that. Keep doing it until discipline is no longer something you try to have, but something you become. Everything begins with one decision, and the next one is yours.